Every treasure hunter who's gotten close to finding this specific pirate hoard has either disappeared or suddenly stopped searching altogether. The last guy, found dead with a 300-year-old Spanish coin clutched in his fist. Why would someone kill to keep this treasure lost? Picture the Caribbean in 1660-something. Spanish treasure galleons are basically floating ATMs stuffed with enough gold and silver to make Jeff Bezos jealous. These ships move slower than your grandmother at the grocery store, carrying fortunes that would make today's billionaires weep with envy. But here's where things get interesting. Wars kept ending, leaving thousands of skilled sailors suddenly unemployed. What do you do when you know how to navigate, fight, and handle a ship, but nobody's hiring? Well, some guys decided to start their own maritime businesses, the kind that didn't require permits. These weren't your typical desperate criminals either. Many were former Royal Navy men who knew exactly how merchant ships operated, what routes they took, and when they'd be most vulnerable. It's like having an ex-bank manager plan a heist. They knew all the weak spots. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. Colonial powers were busy fighting each other instead of protecting trade routes. Naval patrols were spread thinner than butter on toast. Meanwhile, sugar, spices, and precious metals were flowing across the Atlantic like never before. Remote islands became pirate headquarters. Think of them as the original offshore tax havens, except with more rum and fewer accountants. Places like Tortuga and Nassau turned into lawless sanctuaries where crews could repair ships, divide loot, and plan their next shopping trip to someone else's cargo hold. Then you had the personalities. Blackbeard made himself look so terrifying that merchants would surrender without firing a shot. Talk about effective marketing. Anne Bonny proved that breaking glass ceilings could involve actual breaking and actual glass. Bartholomew Roberts captured over 400 ships, making him more successful than most Fortune 500 companies. The whole system worked because everyone was getting rich. Pirates spent their stolen gold in colonial ports, corrupt governors took their cut, and even legitimate merchants sometimes bought discounted salvaged goods without asking too many questions. But nothing good lasts forever, especially when you're literally stealing from the world's most powerful empires. As colonial powers got their act together and naval technology improved, the party was bound to end. Ships got faster, patrols got organized, and suddenly being a pirate became less easy money and more early grave. What happened to all that accumulated wealth when the Golden Age started crashing down? Well, that's where our story gets really interesting, because desperate pirates don't exactly follow standard banking procedures when it comes to protecting their life savings. Forget everything you think you know about pirates burying treasure on beaches with big red X marks. That Hollywood nonsense would have gotten any self-respecting pirate killed faster than you can say, "Ahoy, matey." Real pirates were craftier than a used car salesman at the end of the month. They knew that obvious hiding spots were death traps waiting to happen. Take caves, for instance. Pirates loved stuffing their loot deep inside coastal caverns where naval patrols couldn't easily reach. These weren't your typical tourist-friendly caves either. We're talking about treacherous, tide-dependent holes that required local knowledge to navigate safely. Smart move, considering most Navy boys had about as much cave exploring experience as a fish has cycling skills. Then there's the ship hull trick. Pirates would hollow out sections of their own vessels to create secret compartments. They'd pack gold and silver into these hidden spaces, then sail around looking like any other merchant ship. Talk about hiding in plain sight. It's like keeping your life savings in a pickle jar. Nobody's going to look there. But here's where it gets really clever. Some captains would disguise their treasure as regular trade goods. They'd stuff gold coins into flour barrels or hide jewels inside casks of rum. Even if authorities searched the ship, they'd see nothing but boring merchant cargo. Makes you wonder what your grocery store might actually be hiding, right? Other pirates went completely inland with their stashes. They'd trek miles from the coast, creating false landmarks and leaving deliberately confusing clues. One captain might carve a symbol pointing north when the treasure actually lay south. Another would build fake rock cairns everywhere except where the real loot was buried. Well, the smartest captains didn't put all their doubloons in one basket. They'd divide their wealth among trusted crew members, each getting a piece of the puzzle. If one stash got discovered or one crew member got captured, the rest remained safe. It's like having multiple retirement accounts, except with more swords and significantly worse dental coverage. But here's the kicker. These brilliant hiding strategies that kept treasures safe from enemies also make them nearly impossible for modern treasure hunters to find. The very tactics that protected pirate gold from 18th century authorities now protect it from 21st century technology. And speaking of protection, pirates didn't just rely on clever hiding spots. They had an entire secret language system that would make modern spy agencies jealous. Pirates didn't just rely on swords and cannons to get ahead. These guys were basically the world's first secret agents, minus the fancy gadgets and martinis. Take their communication system, for instance. While most people think pirates just grunted and pointed at things, they actually developed incredibly sophisticated coded languages. Crews used secret symbols carved into trees, rocks, or even ship masts to identify safe harbors and warn about naval patrols lurking nearby. But here's where it gets really clever. Some pirate captains created maps with hidden clues that only appeared under specific conditions. Hold the parchment near a flame. Invisible ink made with lemon juice would reveal additional landmarks. Fold it a certain way, new paths would align perfectly with existing coastlines. The real genius was in their flag system, though. Everyone knows about the skull and crossbones, but that was just amateur hour compared to what experienced pirates actually used. A red flag hoisted meant absolutely no mercy would be shown. Basically, the maritime equivalent of hanging up on a telemarketer. Meanwhile, a black flag offered one last chance to surrender without a fight. Then there's the color coding system that would make modern traffic engineers jealous. Different colored ribbons tied to specific mast positions told friendly ships whether an area was safe, heavily patrolled, or recently raided. Yellow meant fresh water available, while blue indicated a good place to repair ships without interference. Well, the most fascinating part involves the coastal carvings still found throughout the Caribbean today. Local historians have documented hundreds of mysterious symbols etched into cliffsides and cave walls that don't match any known indigenous markings. Some researchers believe these marks might actually be pirate navigation aids, pointing toward long-lost treasure caches. And the weird part is how organized it all was. Pirates weren't just sailing around randomly hoping to bump into merchant ships loaded with gold. They had intelligence networks that would make the CIA proud, complete with code names, dead drops, and predetermined meeting points. Makes sense when you think about it, right? These weren't desperate outlaws stumbling around the ocean. They were running sophisticated criminal enterprises worth millions in today's money. But all this secrecy and coded communication created an unexpected problem. When captains died or crews got separated, their elaborate hiding systems became permanent puzzles. The very tactics that kept their treasures safe from authorities now keep them hidden from everyone else too. Speaking of vanishing acts, the reasons these fortunes disappeared forever might surprise you even more. Pirate treasures didn't just vanish into thin air like my car keys on a Monday morning. No, they disappeared through a combination of bad luck, worse timing, and the ocean's habit of keeping whatever it takes. Storm season was basically the Grim Reaper for treasure-laden ships. One minute you're counting doubloons, the next you're 300 feet underwater with the fish admiring your gold teeth. The Caribbean alone swallowed hundreds of vessels during hurricane season, taking their precious cargo straight to Davy Jones's retirement fund. But here's where it gets really twisted. Many captains deliberately created their own disasters. They'd bury treasure on remote islands, then get themselves killed in the next raid before drawing a proper map. Talk about poor life planning. Captain William Kidd supposedly stashed a fortune somewhere along the American coast, then got himself hanged before he could retrieve it. That's like hiding your birthday money and then forgetting where you put it, except with a lot more death involved. Then there's the betrayal factor. Pirates weren't exactly known for their loyalty. Shocking, I know. Crew members would murder their captains for treasure locations, only to realize the old sea dog never told anyone the complete directions. Some captains were so paranoid they'd give different crew members different pieces of the puzzle. Smart? Absolutely. Effective for future treasure hunters? Not so much. The really cruel irony is that nature itself became the ultimate pirate. Earthquakes shifted entire coastlines, burying landmarks under tons of rock. Rivers changed course, making Third Tree from the Bend completely meaningless. Coral reefs grew over sunken ships like underwater ivy, camouflaging fortunes behind living walls. But wait, there's more bad news for treasure hunters. Many pirates weren't the brightest navigators to begin with. They'd estimate distances, guess at directions, and use landmarks that could disappear with the next big storm. It's like getting directions from someone who says, "Turn left at the big rock." Which big rock? Some treasures vanished because pirates simply spent them. Revolutionary concept, right? All those romantic notions about buried chests ignore the fact that most pirates needed money for food, repairs, and grog. They weren't exactly saving for retirement. The ocean floor currently holds an estimated 3 million shipwrecks, each one potentially hiding someone's lost fortune. That's 3 million underwater safety deposit boxes with no keys. And speaking of keys, some of history's most famous missing treasures have stories so outrageous they make Hollywood movies look boring. When it comes to missing pirate treasures, some stories refuse to die. Captain William Kidd's lost fortune tops every treasure hunter's wish list. This guy wasn't your typical bloodthirsty pirate. He started as a privateer, basically a government-sponsored sea robber. Makes you wonder about job descriptions back then, right? Kidd supposedly buried his treasure somewhere along the American coast before his arrest in 1699. We're talking about millions in today's money. The problem? Nobody knows where he put it. Some say it's on Gardiner's Island off New York. Others swear it's buried in the Caribbean. Kidd went to the gallows without spilling the beans, taking his secret deeper than any ocean trench. Then there's the legendary treasure of Lima. And no, it's not hidden in a bean factory. In 1820, Spanish officials panicked as revolutionaries closed in on Lima, Peru. They loaded 11 ships with gold, silver, and jewels worth over $200 million today. Captain William Thompson was supposed to keep it safe. Instead, he decided to keep it for himself. Thompson supposedly buried this massive hoard on Cocos Island near Costa Rica. Hundreds of expeditions have torn that island apart looking for it. They found nothing but expensive disappointment and really good tans. But here's where it gets interesting and frustrating. Most treasure maps from this era were about as reliable as a weather forecast. Pirates deliberately created false maps to throw off rivals. Some maps led to empty beaches. Others pointed to locations that didn't even exist. The Flor de la Mar represents another tantalizing mystery. This Portuguese ship sank in 1511 carrying treasures looted from Malacca. We're talking about 400 tons of gold and precious stones. The ship went down somewhere off Sumatra, but despite decades of searching, nobody's found so much as a gold coin. Well, here's the kicker that drives treasure hunters absolutely mad. Many pirates never intended their hiding spots to be permanent. They planned quick return trips that never happened. Wars, arrests, or simple bad luck intervened. These temporary stashes became permanent mysteries. Some historians estimate that over 300 significant pirate treasures remain lost worldwide. Each one represents fortunes that could change lives overnight. Every failed expedition just adds another layer to these maritime mysteries. The question isn't whether these treasures exist. Historical records prove they do. The real puzzle lies in separating fact from centuries of embellished storytelling. But speaking of stories, some treasure hunters believe there's more than just bad luck protecting these fortunes. Pirates were a superstitious bunch, which makes sense when you're basically floating around on a wooden death trap hoping the weather doesn't decide to kill you today. But nothing got them more spooked than the idea of cursed treasure. And honestly, who could blame them? Take Captain Kidd's legendary hoard, for instance. Legend has it that anyone who gets too close to finding his buried fortune meets some pretty unpleasant ends. Ship captains have reported mysterious accidents, treasure hunters have vanished without a trace, and more than a few expeditions have ended in what insurance companies would diplomatically call acts of God. Coincidence? Maybe. But try telling that to the families of those who went looking. The thing is, these cursed stories weren't just campfire tales to scare new recruits. They served a brilliant practical purpose. What better way to keep greedy locals and rival pirates away from your stash than convincing everyone it's protected by supernatural vengeance? It's like the world's first security system, except instead of cameras and alarms, you've got ghostly pirates and eternal damnation. But here's where it gets interesting. Many pirates actually believed their own curse stories. They'd perform elaborate rituals when burying treasure, sometimes even sacrificing crew members to guard the gold in the afterlife. Talk about taking job security seriously. These weren't just marketing gimmicks, they were genuine attempts at supernatural protection. The psychology behind cursed treasure reveals something fascinating about human nature. When bad things happen to treasure hunters, and they do happen quite often, we immediately look for explanations. Equipment fails, storms hit, people get injured. Rather than accepting that treasure hunting is simply dangerous work, it's easier to blame ancient curses. Then, there's the ultimate irony. Some historians believe pirates deliberately spread cursed stories as their final act of revenge against the world that was hunting them down. Can't enjoy their gold if you're too terrified to look for it, right? It's like leaving a really passive-aggressive note, except the note involves your eternal soul. Whether you believe in supernatural protection or not, one thing's undeniable. These cursed stories have done their job remarkably well. Centuries later, we're still talking about them, still feeling that little chill when we hear about another failed expedition. Of course, not everyone's deterred by tales of supernatural revenge. Modern treasure hunters have access to technology that would make those old pirates' heads spin, and they're not easily spooked by ghost stories. Modern treasure hunting isn't your grandfather's metal detector on the beach anymore. Today's adventurers come armed with military-grade sonar systems, underwater drones that can dive deeper than a midlife crisis, and GPS technology so precise it could find your car keys in the Bermuda Triangle. Take Mel Fisher, who spent 16 years and millions of dollars hunting the Spanish galleon Nuestra Señora de Atocha off the Florida Keys. His wife used to joke that their motto should be, "Today's the day," which Fisher said every morning for over 5,000 days straight. Talk about optimism. When they finally struck gold in 1985, they hauled up $400 million worth of treasure. Not bad for someone who probably couldn't find matching socks most mornings. But here's the kicker. For every Mel Fisher success story, there are dozens of treasure hunters who've blown their life savings chasing fool's gold. The ocean floor is littered with more broken dreams than a Hollywood casting call. Modern expeditions cost anywhere from $50,000 to several $1,000,000. That's enough money to buy a nice house, but instead, these folks are essentially playing the world's most expensive lottery ticket underwater. Some teams spend years researching historical documents, studying ocean currents, and analyzing centuries-old maps that might as well have been drawn by a pirate with a serious hangover. The technology is genuinely impressive, though. Side-scan sonar can detect anomalies on the ocean floor from miles away. Magnetometers pick up metal signatures buried under decades of sand and coral growth. Remote-operated vehicles equipped with high-definition cameras can explore shipwrecks without risking human lives, though they can't yet bring you a sandwich when you're hungry. Companies like Odyssey Marine Exploration have turned treasure hunting into a legitimate business, complete with stockholders and quarterly reports. Imagine explaining to your investment advisor that your portfolio includes underwater pirate gold futures. The Whydah Galley, discovered off Cape Cod, proved that some pirate ships really did carry the massive fortunes described in legends. Barry Clifford's team found everything from gold coins to cannons, validating decades of research and speculation. Well, the romance of treasure hunting remains irresistible. Every year, new expeditions launch with fresh hopes and deeper pockets. Some focus on the Caribbean, others scour the coasts of Madagascar or the Philippines. Despite all this high-tech wizardry and genuine discoveries, most of the legendary pirate treasures remain stubbornly hidden, which raises an uncomfortable question that keeps treasure hunters awake at night. Finding pirate treasure today is like trying to locate a single grain of sand on a beach that keeps changing shape every day. And trust me, that's not just poetic license. The ocean literally reshapes itself constantly. The numbers are staggering when you think about it. Our oceans cover 71% of Earth's surface, stretching across 361 million square kilometers. That's roughly the equivalent of searching through 40 United States combined, except this area is three-dimensional and constantly moving. Makes your last attempt at finding car keys seem pretty manageable, right? But the vastness is just the beginning of our problems. Legal battles make treasure hunting feel like navigating a minefield blindfolded. International maritime law is messier than a teenager's bedroom. Who owns what when you're 200 miles offshore? Different countries claim different boundaries, and salvage rights vary wildly depending on location. Then there's the paperwork. Oh, the paperwork. Some treasure hunters spend more time with lawyers than they do underwater. One expedition I read about spent 3 years in court just to get permission to look for a shipwreck they'd already found. Environmental factors work against treasure hunters like Mother Nature has a personal vendetta. Ocean currents shift sediment constantly, burying wrecks deeper each decade. What was visible 50 years ago might now be under 30 feet of sand and coral growth. It's like playing hide and seek with an opponent who keeps changing the rules. Wooden ships present their own special challenge. They rot. After 3 centuries underwater, most vessels have become underwater compost. The treasure might still be there, but good luck figuring out where there actually is when the ship has dissolved into the seafloor. Here's the kicker, though. Some pirates were too clever for their own good. They created hiding spots so secretive that even they couldn't relocate them later. Captain Kidd himself reportedly couldn't remember where he'd stashed half his loot. If the guy who buried it can't find it, what chance do we have? Weather patterns have changed dramatically since the 1600s, too. Coastlines that existed then might be underwater now or completely transformed by hurricanes and erosion. And let's not forget the psychological factor. After spending millions searching empty ocean floors, even the most optimistic treasure hunter starts questioning their life choices. The ocean keeps its secrets better than any government agency ever could. Maybe that's exactly how it should be. Some mysteries are worth more unsolved than discovered.